Today I have a really special guest, me. I am your guest today. I got a lot to talk about. Some posts that I've done recently that have sparked up a little conversation, and I figured I'd clear them up. Chime in and comment on the subject today because it's really interesting. It's about hiring in Hollywood and what we're up against. And I'd love to hear what you think about it. Life has a way of changing our plans, the ones we never planned to change. Ask Miss Chaya. There she is. I look forward to this episode. What the heck next? I am your host, Carrie Morrow. I'm also your guest for today. I've got a lot to say, so let's get into it. I spent my life as a 40-year producer working in Hollywood on big and little productions. And my first producing credit was on a movie called Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. And that was like a ghetto comedy. It was all comedians with the Wayans brothers and most of their friends, Chris Spencer and Sean and Marlon Wayans and the whole Wayans clan, Keenan and his brothers. I will say that I was hired and made very well aware early on about the importance of hiring a crew of multiple colors, that we were not just hiring a crew that was all white or all black, that we were really like conscious of the good balance of a really well balanced crew. And I became aware of that really early on in my career. That was 1993. And from that point on, I made it a really big point in my producing and my productions to always make sure that I had a well balanced crew. And it became to the point where I didn't even have to think about it. I just would hire the right people, all the right people. And I didn't go color first, right people second. I did the right people who naturally, to me, were a balance of colors. And my friend Gustavo Pena, who is Hispanic, and Janetta, and my makeup department, and Dana Campbell, and all my friends, Wayne Witherspoon, who became a really like first call for me. So I never had to be told to hire people and make sure you have diversity. But I'm going to say this: many times in my journey, many, and many times in many productions, I was called to the carpet over this subject, literally. I was hired on a movie called Just Getting Started. Tommy Lee Jones, Morgan Freeman, Rene Russo, shooting in New Mexico. The director was a little annoyed with me to begin with because he wanted to make the movie in Palm Springs and I couldn't get the studio to approve it because there was no incentive there. We went to New Mexico, and once again, by the way, I had just come off The Real Husbands of Hollywood with Kevin Hart and Nick Cannon and J.B. Smoove and Boris Kojo. It is naturally for me to think a good balance of a crew. It's really like a good balance in my life. Forget about in my crew. And I wanted to make sure that that's how all my productions work. So I went off to New Mexico to make this movie called Just Getting Started. And I bring in resumes so the director can just look at cinematographers and all different kinds of people. And I bring in a pile of resumes to the director, and he hands them back to me and says, "Color is your problem. What are all these resumes? I don't need to hire these guys. I got my own guys, and I don't really care about color." And he flings the resumes at me and says, "That's your problem. I don't need to hire a crew of color and balance. I don't give a crap about that." Okay, I get it. And that wasn't the first time that happened. Then when I went to make my TV show Shining Vale, I hired my favorite department head, Janetta Stowers, as my hair and makeup department head, and Shelia Cyphers, who were hair and makeup for me. Courtney Cox, who was number one, had a personal makeup artist, so it didn't include her. But one of the cast members was the sister of the president of Warner Brothers, Channing Dungey's sister, Marin Dungey. And without even thinking twice, I hired my favorite and best makeup artists, Janetta and Shelia, who are African American. I didn't need to qualify them. They are the best, and they work with people of all colors. But I promise you, it was quickly pointed out to me, why did you hire them when there's only one African American actress on the cast? Okay. I hired them because they were the best. I hired them because I hire the best, not because I'm trying to do the rainbow collection. I do it because I hire the best. I don't have to think about it. That's who I hire. When I did Games People Play, my executive producer, Tracy Edmonds, nobody ever had to tell me what to hire. They trusted and knew that I understood that in a completely African American cast, that it would be really wise to have a good balance. I had a Hispanic sound mixer, I had African American ADs and a white AD. It was a balance. It was a healthy balance. My office was a balance. My assistant was Latino. I had a good balance, and I've never had to be told. But I did a post this week. What this is all about was that my agent, after all this time, called me up so excited that she was putting me up for a movie, and she was really like, this is great. It's in town. They need you. And I truly was like, this is it. This is my prayers being answered right here. I'll get back in the saddle and back in my benefits, and onward we go. But the next day she called me back and she said, they're only hiring people of color. What should I say? And I said, tell them I'm mixed. Tell them I'm mixed. I'm old, I'm a woman, and I'm kind of brown. And she kind of giggled and she said, well, they're going to want to meet you. And I go, so let them meet me. All right. I have never had a problem with this subject before. Never. Not when it came to me and not when it came to the crew that I hired. I wanted an opportunity to get in the room. Once I get in the room, they'll love me. They'll know, and they'll see my experience, my 40 years of experience. Don't be a menace. How to be a player. I worked as a consultant on Juice and on Husbands of Hollywood. Games People Play. I was the producer. The list of projects of color go on. And I became great at what I did and loved at who I did. My crews love me. I am loved by my crews, but I never got a chance to get in the room. I was told before I could even get the interview, can you prove you're a DEI hire? You're diverse or equity or inclusion or whatever they wanted me to be. I wasn't. And I was told I could not even have the interview because of that. And is that what we've come down to? And then, as I say in my post, I get a call from a dear friend of mine who was up for a huge movie at Sony, and he had the job. I mean, he knew he had the job. That's it. I'm starting the job and it's going to go for months. I was so happy for him because he was really giving up hope. And then they called him back and they said, I'm sorry, we have to hire diversity. He was just to his knees with shock. He never heard of this in his life until he then mentioned to me, you need to look up that California incentive and see what it says. Okay. Now, I applied for the California incentive for that project I got a year ago with Joel Edgerton, and I looked it up, and this part, I guess I didn't see. So as of July this past year, there is a new condition, which is that a large majority of the cast and the crew collectively had to be a DEI hire, a diverse, equity, inclusion, etc. hire, person of color, minority, okay? And if they are not, this is the part that shocked me. If your crew falls short of that and they run the audit after the production is over and they find that you didn't meet that mandatory requirement, guess what? Guess what? 4% of the incentive that you're counting on, the millions to get back, is going to be docked from you. You're going to get punished 4% for not having a diverse crew. If we have to be told to do that in this day and age, something is horribly wrong. I do that without even looking. That is the silliest, saddest place. Is that where we are, that we have to be told and punished? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that I couldn't even get in the room to have a meeting and to be able to tell them. And by the way, you're not going to believe this, but when I do go on interviews, I actually was once asked, because I am very dark and dark hair and dark eyes, somebody literally said to me, "What color are you?" And I said, why do you ask that? And the woman of color, the executive, said to me, "Well, because you're darker than me, but you're lighter than her, and we can't tell, like, are you Hispanic? Are you Middle Eastern? What color are you?" All right. Guess how I answered that? I go, "Well, I'm whatever color you need me to be." And she kind of giggled, and I just went on. But I got the job. I got in the room and I got the job because I'm a great producer. I'm a great woman producer in a field that was dominated for most of my career by white boys. Got it? But I get it. I get it. I am all about balance and equality, but that to me is organic. That is not something that is forced or punished. And I wasn't even allowed to get in the room to have a conversation or explain this or even show them who I am, because they would have been really happy. And I make people happy because I deliver. And by the way, I push back. And just as a footnote, that movie where that director threw the resumes back at me when I said, "Listen, I just want you to know, I want to make sure that we have a nice balanced crew, because sometimes you have to tell people." And he threw the resumes back at me and screamed, "Color is your problem, not mine." I quit that movie. I quit that movie because that director was off the rails. Off the rails. He was yelling. He was mad. It was not a good situation. And I quit. I will not work with crazy. I will not work with mean. I've talked about this before. None of that's necessary. But I do need to get in the room, and I do need the chance, because it's been a long time. And I want to be able to show them and tell them. And if you look at my credits, believe me, you will easily see, how did you manage those productions? What is your method? What do you do? People of color, I don't have to be told to hire people of color. And now we're down to exclusion, not inclusion, because DEI, the I stands for inclusion. I was excluded. I was excluded and not even invited to an interview because the agent said, "Well, I don't know what you consider of color. She's mixed." And that did not go over well. And I just want you to know that it's really upsetting to me. And people have commented, "This is crazy." It's not politics and it's not the world we're living in. I don't know what we're doing. Chaya, you want to say hi? Say hi, Chaya. Say hi to everybody. Chaya's scratching me to say hi. She wants to be included. You want to be included? Yes, I do. I understand that people need an opportunity, but we're in a really, really rough business world right now. And I just had a great interview with the stunt coordinator for my podcast. He too doesn't have any work. My friends don't have work. We just want to work. And to be told I can't even get the interview. I used to get interviews. By the way, interviews now are all done on Zoom. I used to love getting put on my little suit jacket and go to a studio and show up all shiny and ready to interview with some executive and tell them, if I don't get this job, I'd love to work with you and I'd love to do one of your other shows. And that's how I got a lot of my work. But now it's Zoom. We have been dropped down to this. This is where I have to plead my case, except I wasn't even given the opportunity to plead my case. And I really want to. I want the opportunity for all of us. Just as I said in my post, don't disqualify us unless we're not qualified to do the job. And by the way, I have been called many times in my career for like what they call a micro budget, something in the just a couple of $1 million range. And they'll say to me, do you have any experience making movies at this level? Because by the way, it's an art. It's not easy to work at that level. And they've said to me, we're going to go with somebody who normally works at this level. And they also are worried that I would cost too much money or I would budget too high, and they become intimidated. That is a completely valid reason to disqualify me. She hasn't really worked in the couple $1 million range. So let's disqualify her. But to disqualify me because of the color of my skin, the color of my resume speaks for itself. I am fair, I am inclusive, and I'm conscious. And I grew up in New York, and I was born in New York City, and I know what it means to have balance. And that has never been an issue in my life. Never, not on any of the movies I've ever produced. And I'm conscious and I'm clear and I'm fair and I'm likable. And all my crews of all colors love me. And I don't have a problem convincing anybody that you never have to worry about that with me. But I didn't even get the interview. And that's the part that was really upsetting to me. Not necessarily that they want to hire a person of color. I get it. That's okay. That's really okay. And I respect that and I honor that. That's an executive or a studio's opinion. But when that's your criteria before experience and before an interview, wow. And you wonder why projects have such troubles or go over budget, or maybe you should shift your criteria and think about it, because there are lots of people that have vast experience. I understand how you want to just eliminate from the very beginning. Let's start from the very beginning, and that you may compromise and go, well, we'll take somebody with a little less experience, but you know what? They look like us. That's That's where we are in this world is really heartbreaking to me. And I believe better for us. I have worked in better, and I've always created the most wonderful, pleasant, enjoyable working environments. And I have never, ever, ever had a problem with color or diversity. And I am real conscious of it. And I can get in the room and explain that to anybody. So please give me a chance, because I'm qualified. I am very qualified to produce your movie and protect you and deliver on so many levels. And you don't have to explain it to me. I'm not a kid. I know exactly what is needed to go into a well-balanced crew. I stand on that like you have no idea. I know when I hired my good friends and associates to work on Shining Vale, and I was questioned. I was questioned as to why would you hire them? Oh, they're the best, in my opinion. Their color, I didn't even think. I just think they're so lovely, and they run such a lovely department. And makeup and hair, by the way, is a very sensitive department, because it's like the gossip sinkhole of the entire production, and all the actors sit in there and they all tell their stories and they all talk. And you need a really highly qualified, politically correct hair and makeup department and assistant directors. And I am so good at understanding that in my whole life, I never thought somebody would say to me, "You don't qualify because of the way you look, not because of your resume." I never got in the door. And I think we should all have a chance to get in the door. And I hate to tell you, it's really hard to find a balanced crew, and I work very hard to do it. We should all be given a chance. If you see the credits on my resume, you got to think, oh, maybe she. But they did see the credits, and then they wanted one more thing. What color is she? That hurt. So let's just hope for all of us that there's a better out there, that we haven't gotten to this place where qualifications have been diluted down to that, because I'm well qualified and I'd love to work. I look forward to it. I look forward to the day that I get that call. So thanks for coming. My name is Carrie Morrow. This is What the Heck Next. And this is what I'm doing. What the heck next? Since I'm not working right now. My podcast drops every Wednesday. Please like, follow, subscribe, and please comment. I'd love to hear what you think about this subject. I'm on Spotify, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Apple, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Listen, like, subscribe, and follow me. I really appreciate it.